By now you guys should know how I like to do things. I start off by introducing concepts in a way that I believe is the easiest to understand, especially for somebody who's using Java as their first programming language. However, those easy ways of learning things may not be the most practical way when we actually get into a programming position or when we want to actually start designing our own programs. So I don't leave you guys in the dark, and I make sure that later on we go ahead and take a look at the proper way of doing things, for example. Although the way we learn when we learn the easy way is not necessarily a non-practical way, it's just a little bit less efficient. So in the last video, we were introduced to how we can take the sum of all the values inside of an array. And inside our for loop, we had this line of code over here. We wrote that the variable sum, which was going to be storing the sum of all the values inside of our array, was going to be equal to sum plus the value from the bunny array, which is going to correspond to the number of times we passed through the loop, which was the variable x. Now this means that the first time you pass through, you're going to have 0 for your sum, and you're going to be passing through the value 0 for bunny, which is going to correspond to position 0 over here, which would be 23, and then you'd add 23 to the sum, and then you'd keep going through adding each of these values one by one. Now this line of code works, and we saw that we got a value of 275. However, there is an easier way to write when we want to do something like this. Rather than writing sum is equal to sum plus the bunny array value, we can go ahead and write sum plus equal to bunny x, like that. And this is going to give you guys the exact same value. It's just a more practical way of writing things. So I can put a note over here that sum is equal to sum plus bunny x is the same as sum plus equal to bunny x, just like that. So it's a little more of a practical way of doing this, and you can do this with all math operations. And we can actually think of this as the x plus plus we have up here. The x plus plus that we have up here is actually the same thing as x plus equal to 1, which is actually the same thing as x is equal to x plus 1. So it's just a little bit of a way of simplifying this. So we can actually do this with all different types of math operations. We can take a look at that right now. Say we were to go ahead and write, so let's go ahead and remove this. Like, let's just not even consider the array right now. We'll just go ahead and put the value of 5 up here, right? So x is less than 5. We can actually go ahead and delete this array. We don't even want to consider it for what we're going to be taking a look at right now. Remove that. Now I'm going to go ahead and down here, I'm going to go ahead and write sum is equal to sum plus equal to 5. And if I go ahead and run this, we're going to get 5 added to sum each time we pass through, and we're going to get 25. I can actually go ahead and take this printout request over here and put it inside of the loop so we can actually see the progression of how this is working. The first time you go through, you add 5, 10, 15, 20, and then 25. Now you can go ahead and replace the plus sign with a subtraction symbol, and you can go ahead and try that out. And we're going to see we're going to be going down now. We're going to be subtracting 5 each time we pass through. So since sum is at 0, we go from -5, -10, all the way to -25. Now we can go ahead and actually have a bunch of different variations of this, right? We can go ahead and put the division before. Let's go ahead and divide this by 10 each time we pass through. And I went ahead and changed the value of our sum variable. So I go ahead and now we see we have it progressing like this: 100,000, 10,000, 1,000, 100, and then 10. You can even do this with multiplication. Say I want to go ahead and put another value up here, put 5, and I want to multiply it by 10. We know that the multiplication symbol is the asterisk symbol. We go ahead and put the asterisk and the equal to, and then we see that it's going to be progressing like this. So you can kind of use this as an alternative increment operator, right? When you're working with your for loops, it's pretty practical to just leave x plus plus up here, because there's not many situations where you're going to want to increase by more than 1 each time you pass through the loop, right? It's not really going to benefit you that much. However, it's good to know all the options you have available to you. So these are some things you can consider. Other methods of doing incrementation, for example, it's just a bit easier if you use this notation. It's technically the proper way of doing it. However, you'll still get the right result if you just do the x is equal to x plus 1 or the sum is equal to sum plus bunny array value. They both work. However, it's good to learn the proper way of doing it. I'm never going to teach you guys something in a way that's a bit easier and then not show you guys the proper way of doing it. I just think this is the best way of introducing the material. So if you have any questions about what we learned or anything we've learned in the past few videos, leave them in the comments below, and I will respond to you as soon as possible. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video where we're going to be taking a look at random number generators.